I don't think Ashley has sound again.
You good to go?
Is Owen still here?
I wouldn't be showing up if I wasn't. Well, I guess you could say I'm here. I'm your disembodied head tonight. I won't be on camera for a while. Hopefully sooner rather than later, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So this is an interesting one. It's episode 31. And this is Chris's pick. Here's an interesting fact before we get started for those of you that have been following along with the live chats or watching the archives and seeing the live chats. A name would be very familiar to you by the name of Spencer Reed, a very loyal viewer of this channel and a very loyal viewer of this network. And I don't think a show goes by without a mention of this particular movie. So it's quite appropriate that it finally comes to Movie Club. Even though AJ already has a versus, so most of his thoughts are already out where everybody can hear them. But it's not the same for the three of us. I like to refer to this as the unofficial Spencer Reed Appreciation Show. And he will be joining us a little bit later. Not live, but he will be in live chat. And he does have some comments and questions that he left me in an email. But before we go there, officially welcome you to episode 31 of Popcast Movie Club, exclusively here on the Popcast Network. My name is Owen. I'm fresh out of being in a mosh pit at 41 years old. Gotta love life. Gotta love water parks. Joining me, as always, we have Ashley.
Yeah.
Thank you, LA Knight. AJ gets that reference now.
Yeah, I finally understand that reference.
You're welcome.
And you did Legacy Inc. for me, like, being more accustomed to that now. Hate you, Sean Ricker. And also joining us, we have AJ.
Yeah.
Yep. And last but certainly not least, we have the reason that the show is happening today, and that is the person that picked this movie for Popcast Movie Club, and that is Chris.
We talked to you.
I hated you in Impact, I hated you in the NWA, and I hate you now. Apparently, I'm just not going to never have heat with him. Anyway, he doesn't necessarily know who I am, and he never will. So, I am curious, as anybody knows, and everybody knows, that has been watching this channel for the 10 years we've been doing this. When there's a versus that exists, usually it's not something that gets a movie club as well. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of ones that I would have liked to have done, but we already have a versus, so it seems like all has been said. Even though AJ will prove soon enough, if you know, you know, and soon you will, that it's not always good the first time as it could be, and there might be improvements needed to be made in the future. Chris, why did you choose Pacific Heights as your movie club pick of this time around?
Honestly, because it's awesome.
Well, you're not wrong.
That was the only prerequisite it met.
All right. That's fair. I thought there would be a big explanation. No, you just went, Full Chris Farley.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's literally all that it took to get picked. Like, I was thinking about it, it kept coming up, and I was like, yeah, it's that one.
Okay, that's fair.
Well, it's also, even though Keaton has been having his renaissance for like a decade now, it still feels like it's off the radar too.
Yeah, I could see that. To be fair, until Spencer started name dropping it left and right, I didn't know of its existence either. Because back when the movie came out, this wasn't the type of movie that I gravitated towards back then. This is what I would like now. And that's the reason why I really dug the movie. But back then, we know that the infamous story I told about my dad and going to my stepmom's house and Hand the Rocks the Cradle. I didn't do very well with like thrillers back in the day. That wasn't really my type of genre to go into. So this would not been a movie I would have ever tried to seek out in the year it came out. Or subsequent years after that, mind you, not until I became an adult. Because that's when I developed a love for thriller being one of my favorite genres in film. And it's remained that pretty much for, what, 20, 25 years, probably more. Something like that.
I kind of feel like with this movie, and I could be wrong, but I kind of feel like for this movie was for Keaton what Insomnia did for Robin Williams.
I see where that thought process would come in your mind, honestly. Because you don't look at Michael Keaton like that. I mean, you look at him as Beetlejuice and Batman, and for me, he was Johnny Dangerously and Mr. Mom. But I didn't think of him as a hardcore heel. I didn't think of him basically doing the talented Mr. Ripley before it happened.
Well, the book from Ripley predates this, but I get what you mean.
Right, exactly. But I mean, this is not something that I thought was. I mean, obviously, I knew that Michael Keaton was a great actor, and of course, he deserves everything he gets, accolade-wise. But I didn't think this would be something in his wheelhouse back then.
Well, it's really great, especially with what were you saying?
I was gonna say, I feel like if this would have came out before Batman '89, there wouldn't have been outcry to cast. I think.
Oh God, no.
Like, yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it's really interesting how you guys are talking about how this was kind of his going off the path, like doing something that nobody expected from him. Would you say it was even more unexpected because it wasn't just like after Batman, it was literally the next year. It was like the next thing he did after Batman. That's pretty crazy.
It's like he did Batman and he was like, I want to do it if Bruce Wayne was poor and unhinged. Because he essentially is. He's a rich dude with an unlimited bank account.
And a do-bot. 100% got a do-bot.
I don't know why that phrase is so funny to me, but it always has been.
It's funny. I was in the office the other day, and I was talking to some of the managers, and my friend Ethan is also on the other. Like, we share with like different departments, and he's in another department. And he had never heard me say the word do-bot before, and it popped him. And I'm like, yeah, do-bot. He's just gonna do about anything for him. Is the Violent J line from Behind the Paint.
I was gonna say, I think it's because you can just use context to know exactly what it is.
I know. It's the best part. Dude looked like he ripped off Devo's glasses at one point. Thought it was quite appropriate that it was weird because Mako being in this movie was funny because of the fact that most of his performances are things that I've loved for like forever and a day. And SeaWorld has a ride called Mako, which is one of the best roller coasters in the world, and I got to ride it the same day that I watched this movie. I got to watch Mako and ride Mako in the same day and not the same thing.
when did you? Well, I know Owen. Brother, I forget when did you see this for the first time?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, because I remember I think I saw the cover in like Hollywood Video once, and it was like, oh, that's weird. Michael Keaton looks like a bad guy. That's interesting. And then I like flipped by it on a movie channel once, and it was the scene where she's in the taxi and he's chasing her down the street. That's the only clip that I saw. And then
Oh,
I
wow.
was like, I was like, I should go back to Hollywood and get that. And that's how that happened.
Yeah,
Would,
go ahead.
brother, would you have seen it before streaming? Was it that long ago?
Hank? I think. Hell, it might have been on a Florida trip for all I remember.
That's possible too. Was this your first time, Ashley, or? Oh
You know,
no.
not sad.
Hold on, here comes mouth, shirt, sound.com.
I feel like we're gonna watch Ashley snap in real time.
He just walked off.
We've been talking. They've been mentioning for a while now about what would happen, like all the wall of various electronics behind Ashley. We're about to see it go boom.
I just want to see like random stuff go on in his little window. Like we're sitting here talking, and then just like a monkey waddles by.
God. Randomly, a mouse just peeks through and just takes one of the DVDs out, and the next thing you know, it just disappears.
Right now, I just feel like we're gonna see things like flying across the Heathrow.
I feel like maybe it's just because the movie I just watched and the movie we're talking about, but I feel like if you move those DVDs, there's a window, and in that window is Carter Hayes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot. Before I even did the verses, that still wasn't the first time this movie came up, because when we did our villains list, he was on yours.
Mhm.
So you kind of got a taste of talking about just him as a character, because we talked about the creep, how the almost horror starts to creep into this thriller when he's just sitting in the garage watching her.
That's terrifying.
I feel like he's a Hitchcock character.
Yeah, the structure very much feels Hitchcock. That's one of the things I talked about before was it's interesting how this movie pretty much starts right away, and we know right away that he's bad. Because if you put an extra 25 minutes at the beginning that's just about Griffith and Modine's relationship, you've basically got a Hitchcock movie.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about the fact that the thriller aspect is pretty right away? How there's actually not, it feels like it would be a slow burn movie, but it's actually pretty like sudden that it just starts.
I feel like the whole movie is a summation of that Anchorman gift that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
Ashley, chime in whenever you are back so we know that you're around.
I think I'm back.
Yeah, you're back. So, like AJ mentioned, is this the first time that you've seen the movie, or?
Okay. I don't think I've seen it ever like listed as something that's been on TV or anything. As to catch up on, so.
Yeah. It's like AJ said, honestly, at the end of the day, we're talking about how it just kind of just starts and you're just thrown right into the story. And that's one thing about me that longtime viewers know and new viewers don't realize about me. If you can captivate me right away and you can catch my eye and keep me invested in something, I'm gonna love the daylights out of your movie. And I dug this from the start.
Yeah, because you were debating if you were gonna watch it or not.
Right.
You asked me, "Do you think I'll like it? Is this a movie you think I would like?" And I just said, "Yes."
Fun. I mean, it's very different from the other 3 movies I watched this week, believe me. But yeah, it caught me right away. It hooked me from the get-go, and it invested me in the characters. Oh yeah, and I'm sure you're probably I did not realize this was until today when I was looking up the Wikipedia article for it, just so I can get an idea of what I wanted to talk about. But Beverly D'Angelo is not credited.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, that's a big important part that's in the movie twice that I figured would be something that, and I was looking for her name in the credits. I was like, huh, that's not there.
Which is
Was
crazy
I
because
wrong?
it's actually very important.
Extremely important. It bookends the movie, basically.
I also think it's kind of wild that, because I mean, as far as I know, things are complicated, but I've always been under the impression that uncredited means you didn't get paid, which for doing a nude scene is pretty wild.
Yeah.
I mean, not that Beverly Andrews not used to doing nude scenes, but still.
In the genre of 1990s thriller Skinamax movie that my mom would talk about back in the day, which is basically what that beginning scene feels like. It feels like I just flipped the channel at the wrong time.
Because I feel like there was a whole Zimmer saxophone era that was very short-lived.
Felt like I was watching Red Shoe Diaries or something.
Yeah, because I feel like if you look at it, Zimmer's career has basically been episodic, where it's like we're just still in the boomy Zoomer era right now. Zimmer era, excuse me.
Wow.
Boomy Zimmer era. That's what I'm looking for.
Sounds like something they talk about in a bad A24 movie. We'll get there. So I want to save Spencer's commentary for a little bit later. I kind of want him to arrive so he can defend himself. Not really defend himself, but he wants to get some of the things out he wants to say, because obviously I know he's been waiting a while for this show. This is time to shine, 100%. Like, if I knew anybody, if I've never heard of this movie before, I would not know the existence of it without Spencer Reed. So I feel like he needs to be like a big part of the show.
You said that Spencer had questions.
I do have questions from Spencer.
No.
Questions and commentary.
I had a question also. I mean, it's about something that happens like over midway through the movie, so I didn't know when I was gonna ask it, but it's like, because since I basically put all my thoughts into another video, that's what I felt like a contribution could be, is asking you guys things.
That makes sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
I guess, are we just gonna go ahead and jump to the over halfway through the movie? And
Yeah,
I'm assuming
fine.
we're just gonna be all over the place.
Necessarily have to go in order.
So when he finally just leaves, when he's done his damage, he's done what he came to do, and then he just disappears.
Mm-hmm.
We have that whole second portion where she goes after him.
Right.
And you could say it's like, because he almost killed Drake or just get them through. I almost want to say it was mainly to avenge the death of their baby.
Yeah.
Would be one of the driving factors of why she went after him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
My question is, appeared and the movie just ended there.
You cut out at the beginning there, so I heard peered and ended, and that's all I heard of that.
If when
Sorry.
when he disappeared, the movie just ended, how would you feel about it? Because I love the second half where she goes after him because it's so satisfying, especially the way she
Right.
turns it back around. But just out of curiosity, how would you feel if like it was just implied, oh, this is just what he does, but they're safe now because he's gone. He did what he needed to do, and he's going to go do it to the next person. How would you have felt about that?
Chris, you want to go first since it's your pick?
Yeah, I would have been like, why is this movie only an hour?
Well, there would have been. Okay, let's say when I talked about it being Hitchcock, like if it had an extra like 20 minutes at the beginning. Let's say they did that,
Okay.
and then the movie ended when he left.
I don't know. I feel like it would kind of give it an eerie ending because he's still out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think he got away with so much in the movie that he needed some kind of comfort.
Yeah, he's too hateable to not have the satisfaction of when she turns it around on him.
Yeah, and he literally had like 0 setbacks throughout the whole.
Yeah.
I mean, you could pretty much make a genre itself out of movies in the 90s that would have ended exactly like that. Like, there is no. The heel wins. That's it. It's over. Sorry. James Storm, sorry about your damn luck. So, it's like, I mean, it would feel very in tune with a lot of the movies in the 90s where the guy didn't get his comeuppance in the end. He just kind of got away with it. And it would feel more Twilight Zone than Hitchcock, though.
I also feel like that would have been an ending that would have happened in the 2000s because there was a lot of ambiguous endings going around in the 2000s.
I'd say late 90s, early 2000s would probably be about the right time for that type of movie. If you played it like that.
Yeah, because
disappeared.
Yeah, because the final climax where it's them literally physically fighting him that ends in his death is a very 90s thriller climax.
Even down to the way it's shot, too.
But at the same time, I love the fact that we're just like, oh my god, can't they just throw him in jail? For God's sake, just throw him in jail.
No.
And we get a scene where he gets arrested. And we get the shot where he's getting his mugshot taken. And I love how we get to that point where the movie would be ending, but then it's like, just by the way we go to another scene, it's like, this isn't the end yet. And then you have that question of, what, now that he's been arrested, where else is it going? Now, granted, it's just to a 90s thriller climax, but still, I like that that's where it went.
He goes to jail. I mean, it's not a satisfying victory, but it's something. It's like, oh yeah, well, at least he's gone now, but he's definitely going to do it again when he gets out, and he's so charming that I'm sure he's going to get out with good behavior. So who knows who he's going to terrify next? He has to be stopped.
Modine and Griffith's lives are fucked anyway, so they might as well have some fun.
He has messed up so much in this movie, and he is so unlikable in this movie, even though he's exceedingly charming in the beginning. When he starts showing his true colors, it's to the point that he has to die. Literally. He has to die in a typical 90s way. Slow-mo works really well for that. And he, with the music from like Quantum Leap or The Running Man playing in my head when I watched him fall, the thing is, he has to die. There is no way to end this movie properly without him getting the ultimate comeuppance, with him paying for it with his life.
Yeah, because they set it up in the movie. They talk about how untouchable he is. His money's untouchable. Like,
speaking of being untouchable, and like how kind of ironic that is. I don't know if it's on purpose or not, but a moment that I love is after he's arrested and he's talking about all the things they supposedly did to him. Now it's, like, they took my money and they're saying they didn't get it, and they kicked me out, and they tried to kick me out. They're harassing me. And then there's a pause, and then he says, they physically assaulted me. They physically attacked me. And it's like, I take that pause as, given the beginning and then knowing what he does, he gets the shit beat out of him so often. The fact that Drake did it to him was almost an afterthought. It's the last thing he remembered that happened.
I had the thought that was the only thing that he said was true.
Yeah.
It's like everything else, he was on a roll because he was lying, and then when he got to the truth, he stumbled and paused.
That's another question I had, by the way. It was something I brought up in my last video, but I didn't really say anything I felt definitively. That scene where, in the very first scene in the opening, where he gets the shit beat out of him when he's with Beverly D'Angelo.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be the end of that. Him doing that, whatever he was doing at that particular place. Do you think that was a case of he was doing what he did to Modine, where he was making himself look like a victim on purpose? Or do you think that was him genuinely getting the shit beat out of him, and then the scene where he preemptively calls the cops on Drake before the assault was him learning from the mistake of the previous time? And the fact that it's like he's learning to get better at this as he goes to each victim.
Give me for a second. I'll be back.
I can certainly see that aspect, but then again, you do feel that the beating that he took the other time round was much stronger than what Drake would have delivered, in all honesty.
Yeah.
So maybe he was just using it as, this is something I can use. Make it. I have past experience from it, so I'll do that, and hopefully they'll, go my successfully listen to my sort of case and go on my side rather than the landlord side.
He's learning how to truly play the victim. And obviously, it's whenever someone does that enough times, you always want to see him finally get his. Well, the funny thing is with Carter Hayes, he gets his right away. We don't know what he did to that person to justify getting gang beaten like he does. But obviously, it was something extreme.
Yeah, because that's like what my brother was talking about at the beginning also, where it's like how he really spends the whole movie thriving as a villain, which makes it very interesting that the opening scene is him getting the shit beat out of him.
It's the opposite of what it should be, and I think that's what makes it unique.
Yeah.
Got some comments from the chat. I'll get to Spencer's last because I have a whole nice little message from that. Josie chimes in. Hey folks, this run was a wild, crazy ride in a good way. I love the way John Schlesinger used the camera here. Yeah, I love the camera angles greatly.
Reminding the world that he's an Oscar-winning director.
Yeah. Josie says, I wonder if there are any true crime cases similar to that in this movie with Keaton's character stealing identities and all.
It wouldn't surprise. There's so many crimes in the world that I don't know how much the script took liberties with like tenant rules, because some of this just seems like there's no way it can be right. It's like whenever Laurie Metcalf's talking, it's like, are you sure? I know you're a lawyer, but reread that or recheck it or something.
You might want to redo your homework here.
And that cop too.
Oh yeah. I like the fact he just immediately took Carter's side. It's like, by the way, it's like, whose side are you on? It's like, hold on, let's. But I want him taken care of right now. And it's like,
it feels like a giant conspiracy, doesn't it?
it really is. Both Griffith and Modine worked with Jonathan Demme, Something Wild and Married to the Mob, respectively. The screenwriter, Pine, wrote Any Given Sunday, Doc Hollywood, and episodes of Bosch and Miami Vice.
All over the place.
It's eclectic.
Apparently, Pine also rented an apartment to a tenant that he could not evict. That's how this film got inspiration.
Oh, okay.
Carter was originally bisexual.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, with Greg, I feel like there's some sort of implication.
He also mentioned that he sexually threatened Drake and Patty in the original script.
Oh.
I'd have been. It's a little bit
It's like
further than the thousands for that movie.
So he's like a sinister Frankenfurter, basically.
Yes.
I mean, Frankenfurter's already sinister, but
Oh my God. Matthew Modine as Brad Majors. Confirmed.
dude, he would have been really good.
Now I
Doing
want to
good.
see the cast do Rocky Horror. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say Matthew Modine in the '80s could have crushed Brad Majors.
That would have been great. During a talk at New York Film Academy, Matthew Modine said he did not like working with Melanie Griffith because all she did was complain about having her period.
Oh God!
Wow.
What if he asked him that these days if he'd retract that?
Sure, he pretty much would. Carter called Patty Palmer. The detective said the same thing. That was the original in the credits, but her name is Patty Parker. Even though Palmer was mentioned twice. Brian said for a second, I thought the title was going to tell me this was going to have something to do with planes.
It does sound like that.
Yeah.
It's the sequel to Memphis Belle. That's what it is, since Matthew Modine's here. He was in that, right? Or maybe I'm thinking of something else. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. I have plausible deniability. Apparently, Christopher Reeve unsuccessfully lobbied for the Carter Hayes role. Personally.
Well, that's interesting for multiple reasons.
Yeah. Last Morgan Creek production to be released by 20th Century Fox before Warner Brothers took over as their distributor.
Sorry, I just saw an image in my head of a poster that says Batman v Superman: The Battle for Carter Hayes.
Yes, I like that. Janet Maslin, as a film critic in the New York Times, wrote, "This film was perhaps the first eviction thriller."
Are there other eviction thrillers?
Doesn't seem like it.
I definitely feel like there is, but I can't think of any of them off the top of my head.
There's a cycle of thrillers made during the early 90s set around husband and wife characters, including Malice, Deceived, Shattered, Mortal Thoughts, Consenting Adults, two name titles that don't really make any sense to the title or plot of the movie. Unlawful Entry, which is weird because when I was watching this movie, I was getting vibes of that movie.
Yeah, that's because when we talk about the 90s thriller, sometimes it can sound a little degrading because there were a lot of bad ones, but I still love those bad ones too. But the reason the 90s thriller was also a thing was because there were a lot of really good ones like this and Unlawful Entry and stuff like that.
Presumed Innocent.
Something I had said before was not only is this a 90s thriller, but it was literally the first year of that decade. It was 1990. So it was like we were kind of at the birthplace of what was called the '90s thriller here.
Yeah. Josie also mentioned movies like Guilty as Sin, Sleeping with the Enemy, and A Kiss Before Dying.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Josie mentions that Modine and Dorian Harewood worked together in Full Metal Jacket.
I was gonna bring that up if somebody didn't.
Keaton and Modine appeared separately in Batman and Dark Knight movies.
Mm-hmm.
Modine was popping
Modine
right.
was so mad at the Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Still looking for his hotheads back in 1990.
Yeah, he even had to call in Bob the Goon to do
Yes.
nation.
Yes.
Oh,
He called Bob for help against Batman.
Yeah.
We were
great.
while you were away, we were talking about the fact that apparently Christopher Reeve lobbied to get the Carter Hayes part, and how funny that is.
Oh man, that is really funny. Did you already mention Olan Jones too?
No, not yet.
I'm going through Josie comments first, and then we'll go deeper into it. The Picture was a rare entry into the horror thriller genre of Schlesinger, only films in those including The Believers and The Tale of Sweeney Todd that was made for TV. Dorian Harewood was also worked with Schlesinger in The Falcon and the Snowman. And fun fact, love these, Matthew Modine is a horticulturist and a carpenter.
But not necessarily
Friends with Eric
in that order.
Stoltz and neighbors with Lincoln.
Is him being a carpenter why he always wears scarves on his head now?
God. Oh boy. Modine also loves to paint, only actor to have worked with both Kubrick and Nolan.
I never thought about that. That's interesting.
That's cool.
Feather in his cap there.
Pacific Heights, Men in Black, Mouse Hunt, holy trinity of cockroach scenes. Next month will be 10 years since Schlesinger's passing. Josie is shocked about Zimmer scoring the movie.
You can kind of see hints of it. You can hear kind of hints of his Rain Man score in it a little bit in some parts.
Mm-hmm.
Brian says Chris looks clean.
Fix up, look sharp.
Well, the funny thing about that is the way I'm seeing things right now, because I'm viewing it on the iPhone, is all I can see is the top of Chris's head. There you go. Brian says, I will say I kind of got pissed off how this was going, but I love the climax, and I love how Melanie Griffith became a badass.
Yeah, because you're supposed to hate what's going on, aren't you?
Sure, but Mark Warner was a co-editor, also editing Double Jeopardy, Dolores Claiborne, Mao's Last Dancer, Devil's Advocate, Driving Miss Daisy, Big Trouble in Little China, 48 Hours, Rocky III, and The Running Man. I knew that reference was in there for a reason. Obviously, we looked at her in Something Wild 22 episodes ago. This was one of her movies after her Oscar-nominated performance in Working Girl.
Yeah.
Apparently, she was also nominated for a Razzie for Bonfire of the Vanities the same year of Pacific Heights.
Don't forget the Spirits at the same time for the same performance.
The Spirits and the Razzie nominated performance. I'm trying to put things together. Josie says, I like Laurie Metcalf as the lawyer. Me too. Especially because Roseanne was like the thing back then. So this would have been perfect timing. And I was like, oh my God, look who it is.
Yeah, I guess just the year after this, she was in JFK too.
Yep. Brian says, honestly, with this and Something Wild, Melanie Griffith was hot back then.
Oh, yeah.
Fair. If this was set later, even in the early mid-2000s, Josie says, I could see Michael Keaton's character using a webcam to spy on Melanie Griffith and Matthew Modine. Yeah, that movie was called Sliver.
Just what I was about to say.
Great minds think alike, good sir.
Yeah, that was what, Sharon Stone and
Sharon
Billy
Stone.
Baldwin, I think.
That's
Yeah.
right. I remember when I was watching Amos and Andrew in the theater that I saw a trailer for that movie for the first time, and I can't forget UB40's soundtrack to it. Which weirdly enough came up in a survey I was doing the other day, that version of Can't Help Falling in Love. Mako plays one of the other tenants, renowned Japanese actor. Yes, we mentioned this. Nominated for Best Supporting Actor for The Sand Pebbles in 1966. What would Carter Hayes' true crime book be called?
I think it would just be. Well, I know what the cover art. I'm not sure what the title, but the cover art would be his picture from like that newspaper clipping, and like all of the names that his crimes are like fading.
I hate to say this, but you might need to say that again because your microphone sounds far away.
You sound like you were coming from the speakers of a school.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. So the artwork would be his picture from the paper, and behind him just descending order and fading all of the names that he's saying.
Oh, that's interesting.
I
was gonna say something like The Tenant Has Many Faces,
That's a good one.
which would fit that art.
I feel he just want to be meta about it, sort of like the O.J. Simpson deal, and he just call it Trading Places.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
Jesse says, have a theory place in the same universe as Poltergeist. I'll elaborate. You guys seem very confused. Shady real estate followed by monsters terrorizing people, if that makes sense.
Well, that would have to mean the Goodmans were shady, which they aren't. But
No.
I just like the fact the thing
I
comes
get-
out of a TV going, "You missed this line in the contract, fuckers!"
And that's spelled with an AZ at the end instead of the ERS. So there you go. And it's probably a PH, actually, instead of the F.
Yeah, that's how we get around the swearing thing. We say it's slang.
I like it. Brian says, because in the beginning, I thought the plot was going to turn if Carter was going to seduce Patty. Certainly would have been a different movie.
Yeah, one of the things that I like is that she never trusts him right away. Like I feel like in another movie when he says, "I think we spoke before," and she would say something like, "Oh, I don't remember that. I've been seeing so many people for this apartment." She just immediately says, "Nope, I've never met you. Don't even try to pull that."
She seemed like a pushover at like on face value, but once she starts talking, you realize right away she's not somebody that's you're going to be able to get anything past. She's the okay. I'll make a reference that no one's going to get, and I'm okay with that because it pops me. So that's all that matters. She's the person that punches Simon the Likeable in the face.
You're right. I'm pretty sure you're the only person that understands that.
The correct statement. In layman's terms, the person that can charm absolutely everyone, it's the person that will not take the BS. There's no matter how charming this person is, this person's not having it. It's a
And
guess.
what's interesting too is usually that character is a side character that dies,
Yes.
not the main character.
Oh, Josie mentioned it's been 20 years since Schlesinger's passing. Sorry. It's okay.
Well, I felt like it was longer.
Yeah. He made that Madonna film, and he was just like, "Fuck it, peace out."
Play that old tune from the wrestling podcast back in the day.
Oh, you mean the one that might as well have been a gay conversion movie with Rupert Everett?
Yeah.
It's like really, it's like really.
The next best
above like a
thing,
romantic comedy. Ugh.
So I do want to go into Spencer's questions and comments here. He says, "Hey, I might be a bit late to movie club. I do have my reactions and questions. This was his 75th viewing of Pacific Heights." I'm just going to read. There's 26 comments or questions, and I'm just going to go through them one by one. Both Melanie Griffith and Michael Keaton deserve Oscars for this. Everyone, check out the excellent verses on this. Top 3 movie of all time. Top 3? How many times have you seen 1 and 2, sir? That's my question. Love the atmosphere of the windmills immediately followed by the truck. Great suspense buildup. It's very ominous, the way that the movie's shot. Like, you know something's about to go down.
Yeah, because even though you know something is going down, the movie's vague for a very long time.
Oh,
like
yeah.
even though it, like I said, it starts pretty suddenly, and they like realize he's bad pretty quickly. It's still really vague of what's going on.
And there's a lot of things I've watched in Movie Club that I did not necessarily have ever seen before, and I wasn't sure where the direction it was going to go. This immediately was something that I was like, well, I'm watching Red Shoe Diaries, and then all of a sudden that stops, and then the fun begins, and bam, it just catches me right away.
I almost feel like the house is shot different, where like early in the movie it's shot like things are bright, it's a place of hope, and then by the end it's always shot when it's dark and it's a place of dread.
Fair.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but you can see like a progression there.
Yeah.
And then like by the time it's like when Carter basically has the place and Drake has been forced off the premises, it's like pitch black.
Uma dica pra ver?
Great image of the photo album on the floor as we glance through the photos. The ice cube scene itself says a lot about Carter and his control.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton's stare after being beaten up is so menacing. The location itself is like a character.
Michael Keaton's a menacing looking dude. Like he just kind of, his default setting is almost like menacing or mischievous.
And it's really funny how well he pulls that off, since he started off as a comedian. Has anybody here seen that very old clip of him doing stand-up, and he does the bit on the comic in Bazooka Joe?
Yes.
That might be one of my favorite comedy bits ever.
It's not what you're expecting either. And, you know, honestly, like, if you haven't checked it out, please do. Honestly, it's like one of those things, it's like, oh, he can do this? Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And like we were saying,
surprised.
people got mad that he was cast as Batman, but then it's like, when you see him in Pacific Heights, you're like, oh, how is he not always playing parts like this?
Well, if you're mad about who's playing Batman the next time around or who's playing insert superhero, just watch their catalog. 9 times out of 10, they probably have something that shows that they have range.
let's just get all the Batman references out on the table. Did you notice that the first thing that Melanie Griffith ordered for room service was Vichy Soir?
It was soup.
Yeah.
Yes. It is soup.
Hey, wait. Alfred said Vichy Soir is supposed to be cold.
Yep.
She ordered that during that scene because revenge is a dish best served cold.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
God dang it.
And that was 2 years before Batman Returns.
That's great. God, I can't wait for the Flash next week. Anyway, more comments from Spencer. Melanie Griffith is so hot. Patty is such a strong woman and character. I think much tougher than Drake.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's the point.
Yeah.
I mean, use Modine's own words. Drake's a hothead.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's that scene where they're painting the walls and he's like doing it the wrong way, so she just silently takes it from him and starts doing it. Then there's the scene when the electric goes out when they put the nail in the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the one fixing it, and she's the one that says like, "Don't do anything until I tell you it's safe." And it's like she's that character the whole time.
Yeah, immediately she asserts her dominance, and we know who's in charge.
And I will, since it's come up a couple of times now, I'll just say, much as I obviously love Something Wild, if you haven't seen the Paul Newman movie Nobody's Fool, that's where my Melanie Griffith crush was like really strong.
Fair.
I think it's interesting too. She knew where to hit Carter where it would hurt because literally Drake physically assaulted him and it didn't faze him at all. But then when she started messing with his documents and stuff, that's the first time he lost his cool.
Yep.
It's so fun to watch him like start snapping when he's talking to the hotel manager because that's the first time we really see him start to crumble, isn't it?
Yeah, that's when the mask starts slipping.
Yeah, I love how much the fuck you it is when she gets his attention by leaving the wallet. And we don't see what's in the wallet until he opens it, and it's just the blank ID.
Yep. Dennis Reed tries to warn them about renting, about not knowing what they got themselves into when they were renting to people. It sounds like such a headache. The White Cat was bad luck.
Yeah.
I was getting mad. I was getting worried. I was like, don't hurt the kitty. Please don't hurt the kitty.
I was going to say, while we're talking about superstition, surely at some point somebody walked under a ladder, right? There was a lot of renovating going on.
Yeah, but it didn't happen on camera. The details Carter sprinkles in little by little for Drake to trust him is brilliant writing. The casual lock of the car. What's your favorite?
I don't know if I have a particular one. I feel like it's just the Michael Keaton has the smooth talking down so well.
Yeah.
I like when he's trying to talk himself out of a jam with the cops, and he's clearly in order to like be a good person at working people, you got to believe the work yourself, at least in part, to make it believable, and that's exactly what he does.
Oh, he definitely buys into his own bullshit.
100%. And I love how Mr. Baker's application was lost and stepped on and disappeared.
Yeah, because
back.
Yeah, because
just not gone through that box.
Yeah.
AJ,
I
you're
also,
looking
I
about
also
to say
kind of like
something.
the
Stop yourself.
I also kind of like the irony of when they meet again, he assumed it was racism,
Yeah.
and it's like because Dorian Harewood's the guy that like takes Drake in and gives them all the advice and stuff like that. She could literally pull the "I have a black friend" card.
These are not things they would have tackled in the 90s, though, especially not in 1990.
I was like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Nope. I always think Carter's 3 steps ahead of Drake, but only one ahead of Patty. The bringing up talking to Patty wasn't well thought out.
Yeah.
He probably just assumed he'd react the way of, oh, I've talked to a lot of people. I wouldn't remember.
Favorite scene? Asked Spencer. I love it when Patty's at the hotel setting up Carter to fail.
Yeah, I think that's got to be mine also. I also love the turning off the electricity and the gas. It's such a short-lived. Drake doesn't realize how much he's screwing himself over in the moment. It's like actually a moment of triumph at the time.
I think it's just like the fact that no matter what they do, they're screwed. Like, he has messed them over so bad that there's almost no way out of this. They're going to have to take matters in their own hands if they want to do anything to really get to him. The point of no return. I like that.
I like the scene where he's just sitting in the garage watching her while they're trying to fix the switch.
That's intense. Imagine watching that in the back of Town Square Cinema when I was a kid. If that were to have been the case, that wouldn't have worked back then, but I mean, still, watching that kind of scene in the theater, like being one of the only people in the theater, like an early afternoon showing or mid-afternoon when there's no one there, and that scene comes on. Oh man, you would never look at Michael Keaton the same way again. Scenes like that now are like a dime a dozen, but I mean, some of them still hit hard to this day. Let's see. Favorite technical aspect of the film? Spencer loves the editing.
I like the shots of San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I think I'll go with what I talked about earlier. I like how the house is shot differently as the movie goes on.
Makes sense.
I think it's interesting that the score, and this is a good thing. In a way, I'm not quite. It's kind of hard to put into words. In whatever given place, the score kind of feels like it's the score to 3 different movies. Like there's like sometimes it has the thriller score, sometimes it has the steamy score, could you call it? The steamy saxophone score. And then there's other times where it's like the score to like an old TV show or something. And this sounds like it's not a compliment.
Yeah.
It gives it more of an unpredictable nature. Is that what it is?
That's fair.
I think that's what it is.
Any more comments from the panel? I got a couple more messages from Spencer.
I did like some of the costume stuff as well. And Roth did a good job with some of that stuff with Keaton's smart suits and Even just sort of the casual wear that Griffith would with stuff, not actually trying to sort of look homely rather than anything we've seen her in, like Something Wild and a lot of her other stuff.
Okay.
Got a pretty strong cast of a lot of people in small parts. Like we already talked about Tracy Walter, Olan Jones, Tippi Hedren is the person he's ripping off in the second part. The Hitchcock connection. There you go.
Oh shit! I don't even know if I thought I was fixated on. Oh yeah, she's Wanda Griffith's mom. I didn't even make the Hitchcock connection.
Very weird. It's like this movie was like Tim Burton had a hand in casting, Hitchcock had a hand in the story.
Yeah, I was trying to put my finger on because I was like, when you mentioned Olan Jones the first time, I was like, there's something to say about her and Keaton being in this, and I can't figure out what it is.
And Tracy Walter.
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't look it up. I meant to. The guy at the end that they're trying to sell the house to looks similar. Who is that? I've seen him somewhere.
Do you recall what his name is off the top of my head? Because I don't recall.
Oh, let's not forget Dan Hedaya as the loan officer.
Dan Hedaya, yes.
Random appearance at the start as well from Miriam Margolyes. I was like, what?
D.W. Moffat wasn't the guy at the end, was it?
I'm not sure.
It says he was on Friday Night Lights. Does that sound familiar?
Okay, yeah. That might be where I know him from. Who do you play on Friday Night Lights?
Joe McCoy.
Yes, he's the asshole dad. Okay. One of the asshole dads. There's a lot of asshole dads on that show. One of them. He gets Kyle Chandler fired. Because won't start a kid.
He's also down in traffic. Yeah, I mean, a couple more comments and questions from Spencer, and then we'll take it home here. Favorite side character?
Bad for Mako and his wife.
That's.
I feel like they deserve a happy home.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many people often say, well, "You can sue me if you want to."
Yeah. And it's like I don't know that they do, but it was like I look at the good ones and I was like, at least tell him you're not gonna do that. Just tell him that it's fine.
I'm gonna have to go with Tracy Walter's Exterminator. I love that they're going all of this. He's just explaining this like this is this here. No one gets.
It feels like a precursor to his Silence of the Lambs character, in a way.
First.
Fair. I'll bring that to Movie Club since we've never talked about it on here. If possible. Morgan Creek is trying to make a TV show version with a gender twist.
Leave it alone.
That sounds like something that would have been put on Wikipedia like 15 years ago and never came to fruition. Is this actually is this current?
I'm just going with the email that was sent to me by Spencer.
The article about it was published about 2 years ago, but there's been nothing since.
So it was crushed like Young Rock then.
I mean, you don't have to. You wouldn't have to do it as a remake. You could probably do a similar concept, but do an original piece.
That you could modernize it and use, like Josie mentioned, you could use webcams and today's technology pretty easily.
Yeah.
You know, like single white female. Oh crap! We lost Ashley again. Silence. Shirt.
Do it on the
Sound.
set of a.
.com.
Do it.
If they did remake it, like let's say it's coming out in 2023, who would you cast as Carter Hayes?
God, I just want to tell Keaton to do it again.
Oh man, let Keaton do it as an older man,
Okay.
and he's just as creepy.
Yeah, I mean, if he can reprise Beetlejuice this late in the game, he can do Carter Hayes again.
I may be getting
If Keaton was
influenced
out.
by a film where he plays a somewhat similar-ish style character, but I feel you could probably get Christian Bale.
Ooh.
Oh man, Christian Bale would be crazy Carter Hayes.
I was gonna go. You were talking.
Huh?
You were talking. And
I just think Christian Bale would be crazy.
I mean, honestly, if you look at any of the former Batman actors, they could work for Carter. Any of them could work for Carter Hayes.
I'm trying to figure out what age range we're in. Late 30s, early 40s?
Probably.
Hmm.
I feel like it's a testament to Michael Keaton that it's this hard to come up with somebody that has that kind of charm.
Got one.
I also have one. What's yours?
I have two, actually. I'll give you a younger one, and I'll give you a little bit older one. For the younger one, I'll give you Bradley Cooper,
That's good.
and the older one, I'll give you Downey.
That's not bad. I actually really like the Bradley Cooper idea. I was
Plus,
going
I
to say,
I feel like that would be something different for him to do.
yeah.
And the scene where I see him is when he's dodging the application, and he's talking about how like his money comes from the trust. He's like, I run into this all the time.
That's exactly the scene I was thinking about. I was going to say, well, no, he kind of already, well, I was going to say Hugh Jackman, but I'm having second thoughts now. I think you threw me off so much with how I think perfect Bradley Cooper would be. Everything seems bad now.
And he's probably too old for the part, but honestly, the person that came to mind for me, if I was making it today and casting Drake, I would go with Jason.
Who?
Jason Bateman.
Yeah, I could see that. It'd be like his part in The Gift if he didn't turn out to basically be the heel of The Gift like he was.
I'd like to see Ewan McGregor do it myself.
I was thinking about Ewan McGregor because remember when I was getting ready to see Hugh Jackman and I said, well, he's kind of already done a dual kind of part like this, but then I said not really. I was thinking about the movie Deception that he did with Ewan McGregor.
I know. I was thinking like the Ghost Rider.
Okay, yeah.
That style.
Oh my God, you bring up the Ghost right now. Now I'm thinking about 90s Pierce Brosnan being Carter Hayes. Oh my God, that would be fucking. I know we're doing remake stuff. That's my answer. If I had to recast Carter Hayes at all, it would be 90s Pierce Brosnan. End of discussion. End of discussion.
All right. I'm fine with that.
after what we saw in Insomnia, what would you think of 90s Robin Williams as Carter Haynes?
It would have been really good. It would have been really, really good.
Well, if you want to continue that cast of a movie that may or may not come up in Movie Club somewhere down the line, what about Edward Norton?
Norton crossed my mind, but I also feel like Norton's a little too picky to take a part like this, where he'd just be like a 90s villain.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody can say something that really contradicts that, but...
Fair. So a lot of the things that Spencer chimes in about are things that was already brought up by Josie, but he does comment on the fact that there was heat between Griffith and Modine. Take a shot. This shocks me, as she is best in show. He is glad that Christopher Reeve lost out for Carter Hayes. And he hates Matthew for the Melanie slander. That woman outacted you, buddy.
Yeah, that surprises me also, because Matthew Modine seems like a very decent and pleasant person. So that's interesting that was the work environment. Everything, I take everything into question now after the piece of trivia that was Henry Winkler was directing Turner and Hooch, and he quit because he and Tom Hanks hated each other.
Oh.
That's like, imagine Henry Winkler and Tom Hanks hating anybody, let alone each other. I still want to know what the story on that is.
That reminds me of a story I heard on another wrestling YouTube video last night, where pretty much the rumor was, and Owen, you may know something about this, but apparently Cody Rhodes had somebody he didn't like, and he would randomly text Ethan Page to let him know how much this person sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing that happened. There is no mentioning on who that person is. But yes, that is something that happened. I think that's the end. Ashley, final thoughts?
Yeah, it's a good, solid film. The only gripe I have with it is it tries to put too much in, to be fair. I feel there's enough that you could probably get out into sort of like a 2-part, 90-minute or 120-minute each part thing, which would help it better, rather than just being breakneck pace, where Modine goes from calm and loving to I'm gonna murder somebody in about 3 minutes, because I don't think that's natural. Don't get me, I get the idea, and when it gets to sort of the final third, when Griffith is in sort of hunt mode, it really gets good, but just I feel like most of the film is just too fast paced to really sort of suit the 100-minute time. I don't think it should be longer as a movie. That's why I think if it was a 2-part TV special, it'd probably work out better. To like give some room to breathe rather than everything. I'd like to see even more machinations of like trying to make the apartment go to shit, rather than just put a load of cockroaches in there. I feel he could have done a lot more to really wind everyone up.
All right. AJ, you pretty much said your piece on the verses, but do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just that this is one of my favorite genres. I say it's a guilty pleasure genre, but more and more people have told me that the phrase guilty pleasure shouldn't be a thing. It should just be straight up pleasure, regardless of what it is.
Sure.
So yeah, one of my favorite genres, whether the movies are good or not so good, is this sort of thriller that has a particular formula you could recognize from a mile away. But the really good ones have their own touches to it and great performances and stuff like this. And when you look at all the '90s thrillers that there are and all the movies that have where they kind of started with movies like this and then people borrowed and it basically became a whole subgenre. When you look at all of those, this one's obviously one of the best and one of the more influential. So, yeah.
All right. Once again, I'm glad that I was introduced to this movie properly, and I was very happy to view it. I get a lot of procrastination when it comes to movie club, and I do take to the very absolute last possible minute I can. Weirdly enough, I actually did this knowing I would have an extra day that I actually would have been able to watch it day of, and I would have been fine. But honestly, it made sense just to watch it after everything last night, and I was very happy with it. It's a very solid thriller that I very much enjoyed. Everybody really brought their A game, and it just the time just flew right by. Honestly, it really did. I still do not like watching movies outside of the theater, and I probably never will. But at the end of the day, this was a great viewing experience, and I'm very glad that it was brought up for episode 31 of Movie Club. Chris, final thoughts on your pick?
I just think it's a great movie. I think it's, it is short and it is compact, but I think it's also a movie that it works for it, because I think if they would have tried to add any more, it could at parts drag while things are building. So I kind of like how it kind of whirlwinded. I think it's an accurate representation of how quickly things can escalate in real life situations as well, especially these days. And I think if you're a fan of Keaton, I think it's a must watch if you're a fan of Keaton.
I concur. I do want to thank Josie and Brian, and of course Spencer, for chiming in chat tonight. You guys really do push our QA shows, cheap plug, but you also provide a lot of talking point for our club shows as well, and we appreciate that. For those of you that didn't chime in tonight, no worries. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself, and you'll come back for episode 32 in 2 weeks, which I believe is Ashley's pick?
Nope.
Question mark? AJ's pick.
AJ.
So we are going to be talking about another movie that AJ and I actually got to watch in the theater pretty much the same time, same showing and everything. A movie I have not returned to since it came out, but a movie I cannot wait to talk about, and that's Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
That will be
Ashley will
Monday,
be 2 weeks.
Monday the 26th, that will be. Because, of course, 2 weeks' time, wrestling
Forbidden
is
Door.
intruding.
And then I will be back here in July with my pick, which is the final of our group, which will be Snake Eyes. Because I can't get away from the thriller genre or boxing. Anyway, don't worry, the comedy's coming back, because something came up to mind. I may end up bringing it to the next one after this. So, Chris, put yourself over.
Instagram, Chris Hunt's Toys, on YouTube, Figures and Flippation Wrestling Podcasts, on Spotify on Saturdays, on YouTube on Sundays. There won't be an episode this weekend because we have Toy Ohio on Saturday. And then Sunday will be mine and AJ's joint review of Flash.
All right. Speaking of AJ, of course, just like Keith Richards, cannot be killed by conventional weapons and cannot be found on any form of social media. But if you'd like to leave him a comment, you're more than welcome to on any video. And also, if you have any ideas for verses or
Oh, great, has my internet died?
Uh-oh.
Don't know what happened.
I just heard something. Bye!
No,
Oh, so that wasn't just me then. That's what I thought happened.
Everybody glitched.
So,
Because I was
AJ
like,
is
oh god, has
walking-
my internet dropped? But it, there was no signal that it had. Oh,
Okay.
that's doing weird numbers.
So AJ's... Okay. AJ is going to be reviewing Dungeons and Dragons, Shazam 2, if he ever finishes it. And what's the third one?
I think it's going to be Peter Pan on Monday.
Okay. And lots of cool new things are coming to the network during haunt season, of course. A new segment potentially, and some solid videos that should almost be completely finished within the next few months. So AJ might get a chance to rest a little bit for a change.
There's kind of a long video that's going to go up on like the 3rd of October that I'm in the last parts of editing together.
Right. Ashley, of course, can be found at Ash is my name UK on Twitter. And you'll be seeing more content from him in the future, too. Gaming reviews. You never know, maybe a Twitch stream or a repeat of one. Who knows? Snack stashes are coming. More Ashley content coming to the channel, so stay tuned for that. If you want to check me out, you can. It's at Sro and Disney. You can follow our Discord server if you so choose. Link in the description bar below. And more Sippin' Snacks are coming. More Voices of Liberty is coming, and more content's coming. I filmed the whole water park show, of course, because I was front row barricade. So yeah, that video is coming in July for obvious reasons. If you know, you know. That being said, thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. Tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have our regularly scheduled Q&A show, and that's going to be coming your way. Stay tuned for that. While you're at it, stream Intellectual Property in all its wonderment. Check out the final shows of the U.S. tour and the small tour that's coming to the U.K. soon. And that's going to be your show. So until next time, boys and girls, that's all we got to say about that.